Hello everyone, watching today's second video. So we've already done the first video today, which is having a look at the latest situation in the tropical Atlantic in terms of storms and hurricanes. We've got Hurricane Maria menacing the Caribbean this week. So if you want to know more about that, then do have a look at today's first video. Just scroll down the homepage and it's above the pollen count. This video is going to be focusing on the weather for UK and Europe for next week to 10 days. It's taken us more or less to the end of September, actually, with this update. So I think we'll be seeing a change in the weather pattern for the final week of September. High pressure is going to be building to the east and northeast of the country, probably giving a fair amount of settled weather for a while anyway, through the final week of the month. It may all start to break down quite quickly, or it might run into something more extended. It's going to depend how the jet stream and the remains of these tropical storms sort of interact with the ridge that's building over Europe. I'll talk you through everything that's going on right now. So we'll start off with the 500 millibar high anomaly flow charts for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECNDF here on the top of the GFS, which I'll have a look in a moment. Is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the absolute high pressure. Low pressure are being driven by a jet stream running above. Red and orange extrapolates to high pressure, and blue extrapolates to low pressure. Excuse me. So, I say, this is for the next 7 to 10 days. It'll take us to around the 28th of September, almost closing out the month. And you can see big change, really, on what we've had for a while now. Got a big ridge here sitting around and to the north and to the east of the UK, with low pressure being blocked off in the Atlantic. So the jet stream is doing something rather like that. We are placed on the mild side of the jet stream, but because this is such a extensive ridge, we may be bringing in easterly winds. Now, easterly winds at the end of September, they're not going to be cold, but they might have a bit of a chill to them as they run over the North Sea. So although the upper air temperatures are probably going to be quite warm this final week of September, will depend very much on the exact direction of the wind. Because if we're dragging in a lot of cloud, which you can do with easterly winds at the end of September, those east winds, particularly for eastern coastal areas, can be quite cool. But of course, the main thing is that this ridge is going to be bringing lots of dry weather, not just to UK, but to many northern parts of Europe as well. This is how the GFS is looking. Very similar. Subtle differences, though, with the GFS. So we've got this ridge which is centred over Scandinavia. That's a proper sort of Scandinavian high. You see one of those turning up in the winter. It all starts getting rather interesting. But we've got this trough in the Atlantic, and it is deeper and it's closer to us than what we see with the ECMDF. Now, the jet stream will again be doing something a little bit like that. But what we could get with this one is we might start to undercut the ridge with this trough. So we might actually start to bring unsettled conditions, particularly into the south, with this ridge centred rather further north and northeastwards compared to the ECNDF. There's not much in it. It's very close. Both models are very close in terms of the pattern. Just a very subtle difference with the GFS could mean it is a little bit more unsettled, particularly so for southern parts of the country. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles next couple of weeks. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average. Now, we're still a little bit cooler than average today and tomorrow, so just a couple more days of this cool run of weather that we've had for quite some time. And then later in the week, temperature lifts up, go a little bit above average. And then really through the final week of September, this period just here, we are going above average with the upper air temperatures. But do keep in mind that could be with easterly winds as well. So although technically it could be quite a warm air mass that we have for this final week of September, really does depend on the exact direction of the wind. If it's southeasterly, then we will probably realise that temperature potential. We might see the temperatures going into the mid-20s Celsius through this final week of September. So it could get very warm for the time of year anyway. If the wind has more of an east to northeasterly component, then that could drag in a lot of cloud, so that will limit surface temperatures. And of course, the other thing you have to keep in mind is that east-northeast winds at the end of September are not going to be overly warm. There will be a bit of a chill to them. So the exact temperature that we get through this final week of September, I think, is a little bit open to question. Now, in terms of rainfall, we are going into a bit of a drier slot as well. So we've got some precipitation coming up today in the form of showers. But after that, really quite a few days of essentially dryish conditions. It's not totally dry. Could be showers coming through at times. But starting to around sort of 27th, 28th of September, this period just here, there's not much of a way of rainfall. After that, this is in the extended part of the model. So it's taking us through the very final days of September into the first days of October. And then it does look like we have got rainfall spikes coming back. So it could well be this ridge interlude is actually going to be quite short-lived. And by the start of October, we could be back into quite wet and unsettled conditions. But bear in mind, that's a very long way off. It is in the unreliable time frame of the model. This is how the temperature anomaly is looking for the next week. This is going from the 18th through 26th of September. And we're going ever so slightly milder than average as we are for Ireland. France, Germany, still a little bit cooler than average there. Much of Northern Europe and North East Europe actually coming out a little bit warmer than average. I expect these are going to trend warmer over the coming week. So we'll look at these probably around Thursday. I suspect that we're going for quite a sustained spell of warm weather, but we'll wait and see on that. Precipitation on is obviously with this ridge building across Northern Europe is going to be turning drier. So not just the UK, but many parts of Northern, Central and Western Europe are coming out drier than average for the week 18th to 26th of September. This is how the GFS is looking for Friday wind. So already we're getting this ridge going up over Scandinavia, backing into the west of Europe. That's really the start of this change in the weather pattern. However, for us, we are still bringing in low pressure at the end of the week. So particularly for the northwest, there could be some cloud and rain. The southeast probably getting a reasonable amount of dry weather. It's over weekend that this ridge starts to take over pattern. So a strong ridge building over Scandinavia at 1,035 millibars. And that's blocking off the Atlantic. If we get this in winter, as I say, it does get very interesting because the low pressure systems, which bring us our mild wet weather, westerly winds in winter, they get blocked off, and the mild air goes up these southerly winds like that, and then the ridge over Scandinavia, that can start to pull the wind into the east. Now, it's only September, so it's not going to be cold, but as I say, there might be a little bit of a chill to that easterly wind if it gets more towards the northeast during the final week of September. So we go through into next week, and the high pressure is in over Scandinavia, a big ridge at 1,045 millibars. It's blocking off the Atlantic, so a drier spell coming up through the course of the weekend and into next week as well. You notice the wind is generally south-southeasterly, so that's going to be quite warm potentially actually next week. We could easily see temperatures into the low 20s Celsius with that. And it could be really very pleasant indeed. The low pressure in the Atlantic, that is threatening some cloud and rain at times for southern and western parts of the country, but not quite pulling off the undercut. But we will have to watch out for that, this area of low pressure in the Atlantic. If it starts to ride underneath the ridge, then that, particularly for the south, could bring some quite wet weather. But as it is, it looks like much of next week up to day 10 could be a fair amount of dry weather and quite warm as well. That's the GFS. This is how the ECMWF is looking. So again, at the end of this coming week, it is looking quite unsettled, particularly so to the north and west. But ridge starts to build over the weekend. There it is in over Scandinavia by Monday, bringing a fair amount of dry weather to much of northern and Western Europe, and then the ridge intensifies through the course of next week. So a very big ridge building here from the UK up to Scandinavia, back into western parts of Russia as well. Notice the wind is going easterly across the continent. That's how we finish up on day 10. This is Thursday, 28th of September. When we are pulling in a proper easterly wind, this is a really big ridge that we have here across Scandinavia and back into Russia. If you follow the isobars back, you can see that the air is originating from a very, very long way east. It's originating from Russia, pushing through all of Europe, Northern Europe, and into the west of Europe as well. If we was to see that in January, that really would be a big freeze type situation. As it is, it's still September, so it's not going to be cold. But the upper air temperatures aren't all that exciting. Let's compare upper air temperatures with the ECM to the GFS. So you see the difference. If it's a south-southeasterly, but actually it's quite warm for the UK, particularly the south of the UK, and for France as well. Temperatures probably going into the low to mid-20s Celsius there if the wind is south-southeast. But if the wind is due east, direct easterly, or even a little bit northeasterly, then the upper air temperatures are quite a lot cooler, and probably dragging a fair amount of cloud as well. So it's a subtle difference, but it will be an important difference for next week in terms of the feel of the weather. Potentially it could turn very warm for a time next week, but we do have to watch out for whether these winds are going to get properly into the east. If they do, that even in September, late September, will be enough to start to peg the temperatures back. By the way, over here we have Hurricane Maria heading up towards Newfoundland, and of course everything that's happening excuse me, everything that's going to happen next week is very much up in the air, as part of the pun, because we've got these storms and hurricanes in the tropical Atlantic. How they are going to interact with the overall weather system and also with the jet stream, that is the big unknown. So it will be a case, again, that we're going to have very unreliable sort of weather patterns beyond 5 days. There isn't going to be a great deal of reliability. But I do think we're going to head into a more extended spell of drier weather at the end of the week, but over the weekend into next week. Should get a few days of drier conditions, and potentially it might turn warm, but we do have to watch out for those easterly winds. So that's brought you up to date with all the latest. Obviously, through the course of the week, we'll be continuing to monitor hurricane activity and how that plays out in terms of our weather as well, whether we get this ridge in, and if we do get the ridge over Scandinavia, where will the exact wind direction be coming from next week. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.